Hey guys,
welcome back.
So we are letting our audience choose our topics. And so today I picked a question from someone named Kat102896. Katilette and Kayli, was there ever a fight or a moment after you married Shay and Casey that you were like, how am I ever going to spend the rest of my life with this man?
Oh man, this question.
It's a two-parter, so we could start there and then go to the second part, which is Miya and Carly. What was the turning point in which you knew you had to end your relationships?
Wow, this is...
Ooh, that's a heavy one. Okay.
You're sweat here.
Relationships aren't perfect. Ever. Even if they seem perfect, they're not. And yes, that has happened a lot, actually. We've gotten in fights and I've been like, I cannot even look at you. I'm never talking to you again. You know, so there's been, of course, a lot of times that we've gotten in fights. But at the end of the day, I love and adore Casey so much, and I know that, and I have the hardest time going to bed feeling angry at him because he is my best friend and I love him, and, you know, we might fight and have, you know, horrible time, but he's my security blanket and he's my everything. So, you know, that's what gets me through those horrible fights when I think, this is it. This one's it. That's it. That's the last straw. Done.
But it's important to fight, too, because that means you're being honest. I'd be more concerned if someone's like, I've never had a fight with my husband. I'd be like, then somebody's not being honest.
Yeah.
I was like, my first boyfriend.
That's a good way to look at it.
I was like, we never fight. But then at the end of the day, you realize, oh, we're kids and we barely know each other. You know, we weren't able to be honest. So I think that's...
It's so funny the way me and Casey fight. I'm a fighter. Like, if there's something bothering me, I'm like, we're going to fix this, and I'm going to follow you around the house, because he's like, let's just wait, and it will blow over, and I'm like, no, come on, not blowing over.
I did that too, that's me. Daddy's like, go away.
We're talking about this,
Yeah, totally.
Maybe that's a womanly
I think
thing.
it's really
Like,
funny. Yeah.
we'll figure this out now.
And he's like, you know, it's better if it blows over and we have a second. And he's told me that before. Sometimes I just need a second. I'm like, nope. If I give it a second, then I'm not going to be mad anymore, for one thing. And then I'm not going to fight as good. Right now I have a lot to say.
I do the same thing. Wow, that sounds just like me.
Oh, that's hilarious. I think that, I mean, going back to what we said before, you know, my dreams and goals was to have a Prince Charming, to get married. And, you know, I found the man that I'm madly in love with, and I married him. But marriage is hard. It's really hard. I mean, relationships in general are very difficult because you have to take this other person and mold each other together. Like, you have to be able to mold, and it's hard.
So hard.
Yeah,
So,
it takes a long time.
yes, we have definitely had big fights and arguments, and that's part of getting us to where we want to be, I feel like. And, you know, there was a time in our lives where it's like, I didn't want to fight with him, so I wouldn't say certain things to him, I wouldn't tell him the truth, and that just created bigger fights. So that's the one thing in our marriage that I've realized is the most important is honesty. Like, now we're totally honest with each other, and it's hard sometimes, like, I just got in a wreck, or like when I actually, like, I hit a van. And
My van hit another van.
and I was trying to be like, how can I tell this story so it doesn't sound like it was my fault? But it really was, you know? I knew he'd be upset, but, like, I was just honest, and I told him, and he was a little upset, but because I was honest, he was less upset.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's been many times like that where it's just like, if I just say exactly how I feel and why I'm mad and not try to be, like, cover it up. You know what I mean?
Because then there's resentment. You know,
Exactly.
It starts to build inside you, and then it's a horrible fight, and it's not, and then it's your fault. It's not their fault.
What's worse is them initially getting mad or finding out later and like,
Right.
why didn't you tell me? So it's like,
Yeah.
bite the bullet or wait to bite the bullet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Wait to
even
get
with
shot.
just, like, emotional stuff, like, if he does something that bothers me and he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, if I do that, then it creates so much problems. But if I say, no, you did this and I didn't like it, then he'd be like, oh, I didn't realize, or, oh, well, I don't agree with you. You know, if we just talk about it, you know, sometimes we fight about it as we're talking about it, but as long as we're honest, it always works out.
Do you know it's something that I have learned from you with fighting is I have a hard time sometimes letting the little things go. But I've noticed sometimes Shay's done something and I've thought, ooh, if Casey did that, I'm yelling at him right now. But you're just like, you know, it's a little thing. And not that you've said that, but I've watched you just kind of brush it off. And I've learned from that with mine and Casey's relationship, like, little things sometimes aren't worth fighting about. And so you have been such a good example of that for me, because get mad at
That's
little things.
that's true. Picking on the small stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and usually the stuff you get mad at is really a reflection of stuff, your own stuff that problems you're having that they're just triggering in you. You know what I mean? So if you can somehow look at it and be like, why is that making me mad? I think there's just more to learn there, and that's what they're there to do. They're supposed to be a reflection of you, and you figuring out your stuff.
I used to always try to get his viewpoint. Like, why are you mad at this? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you not saying this? And I try to do that with any situation in my life, whether it's with work or with friends. And with him, it was like, okay, I get it. Like, because if I put myself in his shoes, I get it. And I would say sometimes when it was on the other side, I would say, put yourself in my shoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How would you feel if I did this
And did
that
he
way?
ever do that?
I think about that.
And if you're not able to do that,
And he's like, you're right.
But
That's
he
the
was,
part- he
because I
was,
was trying to make that same situation about him. What if it was that guy and your friend with this situation? And then he got it because he put himself in that situation. So I always made sure and never go to bed fighting. Like, because the next day you're over it and you never handle the problem. So you just have to, like, in the heat of the moment, you fight about it and then you get it out. The next day, you're fine.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
it's so funny, Carly.
I was just trying to think of like me and my ex, and like if I put myself in his shoes, I'd still be like, no, why are you not? You're an idiot. Like, no, I'm just kidding. But I was trying to. You took them.
What do you think was like the turning point in your relationship, or I don't know if that's
Rock paper scissors. So what?
Subject. Want to go to boat?
I think I don't know. My relationship, I feel like the best word to explain it from the get-go was toxic. I just think that we fell in love so hard so fast, and I was so young. I was 18 and I had never loved anybody like I loved my ex. I saw him and I was like, I love him, and I let all barriers and everything go out the window. That I always prided myself on not being that stupid girl. Like, I always could tell if somebody was cheating on me. And Shay and Casey, being my older brothers, were good mentors. Like, Carly, he's not into you if he's doing this, or he's, so I thought I was a good reader of guys. But with my ex, I just, all those, not walls, but, kind of protectors, I dropped them all for him. And I think that nothing against him, but I think I had eyes for the man he wanted to be down the road, and the things that I didn't like about him, he said he would fix and he would never do again. I just kept thinking, I love him and it will get better, it will get better, it will get better. And I distinctly remember sitting one day in church thinking, I love him and I'm happy, but is this as good as it's gonna be for me? Is this what I've always wanted? And I just remember thinking, no, I deserve better, and I give him better than what he gives me. And I just thought, it can't go any further, because he's not supporting me in who I really am and what I really want. And I don't think I was doing the same for him. Like, we had just kind of done this because we were so young, and just I was very naive, like, oh, it's, it will work itself out. But I think it's important in relationships to confront the things that you have differences in, because they won't change. Like, that person, you can't change somebody.
No.
And that was my biggest, like, if I love him enough, or if I'm this type of a girl, it will change him. And it just didn't.
That's like, not to quote Oprah, I love Oprah. She's actually quoting Maya Angelou, but she says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So if they're going to show you a pattern, that's who they are. They're telling you. So it's your job to say, okay, this is who you are. And that,
Not
I
by
think,
what they say. But
yeah, not what they say or what you think they should be, which is, I think, so typical of women, and I do it all the time. You just change this way, or you can be this, but people are who they are, and you have to accept them for who they are. So thank you, Oprah and Maya. It's a great quote, but I think it's very typical of women to be like, I can save you, I can change you, we can make it better.
Yeah.
How and it's hard.
In your relationship?
We actually dated for a year and a half, and then we got married, and then we were only married for we dated for about 2 years, and then we got married. We were only married for about a year, and then we actually split up from there. And so Cooper was really little, and I think I just changed a lot from being like this little teenage girl to I was now a woman and a mother. And I think I just went back to who I really was inside. I feel like I lost that along the way to him. And kind of who he wanted me to be, and I was being that dumb girl, like, well, if I do this or dress this way or look this way or do these things, then he will really love me, and so, and I never was that way, and I've never supported anybody for losing themselves, but I really did, lose who I was. I was a monster. No, I don't blame you guys for hating me.
You were not.
Oh, we did. I hate you.
You were a monster, but it
We
was
were
sad.
laughing.
I remember thinking, I don't know Carly anymore.
Yeah, so I feel like I
good to have you
lost sight of,
I think that's so human, though. I think that's
a good
I've done that.
observation on
I
your
mean,
part. Being able to
who
see
hasn't
that.
done that?
It's scary though, girls. Be careful. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
scary.
you shouldn't feel like you should have to change yourself.
Yeah.
Because I remember doing that in college, dating
yeah.
this boy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna love me, and he's so beautiful. And it just felt like I knew I wasn't being who I wanted to be and who I was, but I liked him so much that it didn't matter. But it does matter. Like, if you're truly being who you are, then you're gonna find somebody that loves you for who you are. And that's why when I met Shay, it was just like, wow, he doesn't mind that I just laughed like that, or you know, like I could totally be myself around him, and he like loved me no matter what. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important, and I think it is very human. I just hearing your story. I mean, I think I've done that many times. That's part of growing up and figuring out who you are, and it's. I think it's.
Yeah, and I don't want it to like all the blame's on him, because I think I was definitely equally responsible. I just, at the end of the day, we were different people, but that's is so hard for me to let him go, is because we had this like crazy intense love, and it's like, how did that go so wrong, or how could that have not, how could I have not seen these bad like red flags flying at the beginning, you know, because it's just like so much love, but then it was so bad, like. If MTV could have followed me for 4 years, my life would have been sold for millions.
Teen Mom
Drama and crazy times.
Okay, enough about me. What about you, darling? Your turn.
You're on the hot spot.
I'm thinking, what am I going to say? I don't know where to start. I don't know. Do you have a more specific question?
It was hard to define, like, there wasn't, I don't remember a specific moment where I was like, you're cut, like, can't do, you know
because
what I
my
mean?
story, there's so much to it. It's hard to just put, like, I feel like you guys might not even know the whole story of how I became single and stuff. I guess I should just start from.
you could.
So I was in a 10-year relationship. I was married for 8, and we planned on having a child. It was like part of the normal progression of having a family. And I've mentioned this before briefly, I believe, but when my daughter was a year old is when I felt like we just weren't as in love with each other. Like we used to be, we were talking about fighting earlier, like we didn't actually fight that much. Like we got along so well, and we're both really chill people. We don't like drama in our lives. So we really communicate really well. Like if we had issues, we would sit down and I would say, I don't like this, that. And I would give him a chance. What about you? What is it you don't like about me now? Let's just talk about it. So we always kind of made sure we have these conversations. It was a very mellow relationship. And towards the end, I just felt like we weren't like buddies anymore. And it was on both sides. And then one time he was like, I'm not feeling this anymore. And I'm like, of course not. Like we're not really a couple anymore. We're like roommates. He had a new job that was really stressful on him. I stopped working, and we just didn't do the things we used to do as a couple. We used to spend a lot of time together. And I was like, we went on one date in 1 year. Like we did. We spent 3 hours, just the two of us, in an entire year.
Wow.
And I think that will ruin, any relationship.
Sure.
So then I said, of course, that's what's going on. And then I thought, I said, what do you want to do? I just kind of thought about the word, like, do you want to leave? I mean, and he was like, of course not. Like, okay, well, let's fix it. Let's go on dates. Let's find each other again. So my friend came over to my house, and she was like, oh, you guys, please go. Like, I want to save your marriage. Like, go. So we went on a date, and it was horrible. It was like the second, like, normally, he'd get out of the car, and right away we'd hold hands. Like, we were so, like, hugging all the time. And then I remember walking on the streets like this, and I was like, oh my God. And then we went to this little place to have like a glass of wine before we went to dinner. And the entire time we were just staring at the wall. Wow. And I remember at that time, when you say like specifically, what was the turning point? I remember that second thinking, we're done. Wow. Because it was just so awkward. And then we went to a restaurant afterwards, and I just I was not hungry anymore. And from that day on, for a whole month, it was all of a sudden him deciding if he wanted to stay in the relationship or not. Because I think I gave him like an option by saying, do you want to leave? And then when he said no, I think it kind of gave him an option of a possibility. And then it was just like a whole month, and I was trying to like talk to his friends. His friends were like my friends after 10 years, and they're like, dude, you've had a baby, you have a new job, it's stressful, it's normal. Like, you guys are having issues right now, it's part of it. Like, one of our friends had a baby that was born the day after Mila was born, so he was in the same shoes, like, not going out on dates and this. So he was like, it's fine, it's normal. And so his parents were, like, trying to talk to him. Like, everybody was like, don't do it. Like, you don't understand. You guys have the best relationship. And it just kind of, one day he was like, he's like, I think I'm done. And so I'm getting emotional.
Good, you can take the turn, because usually it's me.
And it's weird because I've said this story so many times.
That's because...
And I'm kind of over it, you know, like, I'm happy now, but I feel like there's people out there in my shoes. It was just... Remember when you said that you remember you said I never once expected that I would be a single mom?
Yeah.
When you said that, I had that thought. I was like, what? Like, we talked about marriage on another episode, and I was like, that's not what I pictured at all. But that being said, I was like, okay, thanks. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm not gonna let that affect me. Yeah. And I just had, I'm sorry, I'm reliving the whole moment. I just remember my little girl looking at me, and I was like, it's not gonna change anything about her.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna give her everything she needs. And I'm lucky because he and I are actually close now, and we're actually friends. And like, he's the one who's like asking me, like, are you dating? Like, we're happy for each other. Like, he had a girlfriend, and he was calling me, like, how do I handle this? And I would give him advice, and then no, but like, because we remained friends, you know. Like, I know for you it's hard to believe that because your relationship is different, but like, we really had that friendship for so long that now we're still friends, you know. And he's like, oh, I hope you're happy, and we'll talk for like 20 minutes to just talk. So like, I'm being emotional because I'm reliving that same moment, but looking a year and a half later, I'm happy, and I'm like doing things, and I'm like meeting amazing people, and my daughter is so loved. Remember when Shay was saying all that's important is they know they're loved? Like, I feel like it's almost like I feel not bad for her, but I feel like I have to give her extra just because, then you said that too before, just because she doesn't have both parents together, I have to give even more than I can possibly offer. So that's my story. I mean, there's more to it. It's like, you know, I could explain a lot more, but that's really how it happens. So
do you feel like a lot of the sadness is more just it sounded like you were saying it's not what you had expected it would be. So it's like,
yeah, and I didn't expect that from our relationship, because people that knew us were like everyone, all of his friends were hoping to find a wife like me, and all of my friends were hoping to find a husband like him. Right. Because together we were really like, my friends.
You're like the dream team.
We were, and my friends were crying like for months later. Like, some of their husbands would call, their boyfriends would call me and be like, I don't think my girlfriend believes in marriage anymore because you guys are not together anymore. Like, I had my friend crawl up in a ball, and she was like, if it didn't happen for them, there's no way it's gonna happen for me. She's like, I've seen you guys. Do you think
that you were sad more about the idea instead of like, you said so the emotions were lost? Was it just like the initial idea of you guys?
If I was more sad about,
like, the idea that you guys were broke, like, because there was defining points in my, you know, where I was like, I could never forgive him or like get over, like, they were definitely milestones in helping me get over it, but it seems like yours just kind of
there was like, no fight, there was not one thing. It was just like I mentioned before, we were just like,
it was
not
harder.
in love with each other. It was unexpected because we chose to have a baby, and then a year later it's done. You know, it was just like not planned that way, but it wasn't like one incident that happened. It was just, he had got a new job. It was a very stressful job with a pay cut. I stopped working for a year because I was nursing. So it's just like all the, you know, when we have like financial stress, we don't see each other. It was just everything.
Yeah.
Do you think there's advice you could give? Like, I don't want people to be confused that that's the reason. You know, like, there's advice you could give for people who are having a baby or a career change or whatever to keep their marriage alive.
Yes, and I've mentioned that like, and I've said that before, like, find a nanny. Like, and now I have a nanny because I need to go out and, like, have a little bit of social time and stuff. But I feel like if I only, you always think, what if I only had a nanny that I would have paid $50 a month, it possibly would have saved their marriage. Possibly not, I don't know. But definitely, if you're in a relationship and you have a child, just stay in your relationship. And I'm not saying some people might have thought that because I had a child is what broke us up. That's not it. Because like I said, there's the job, there's a lot to it. But if you could just stay friends throughout, you know, and like find time for each other. I mean, you know, that's just
that's
just
why
some
like
advice.
one thing there's so many things I'm like, if we would have went to counseling, if we would have like expressed those options, if you're having a hard time in your relationship, even maybe not even like a relationship like a marriage or whatever, like, even with maybe your mom or a sister or a friend, like I think you guys do a good job. You and Shay are great at communicating, and you're great at expressing your feelings. Like things like that are important in all relationships, and trying your hardest. Like there were so many times I was too mad to try, and that's what's hard for me. And I don't feel bad for my marriage. I feel bad for Cooper, just because it's like my parents are still married, happily married. I never thought I would be the divorced mom or the divorce, you know, where we go to parent teacher conference and I show up and he shows up and his girlfriend, you know, like I just never saw that scenario happening in my life. So I just feel like in any relationship, it's always good to express all options, be honest, communicate, and you can never be too mad to try again, you know.
And then know when it isn't, and then when you have exhausted it, and then it is time to move on, and that's okay. And then you have to be able to forgive yourself and forgive the expectation of what it was going to be.
And
that's like really letting it go.
It's not, like you said, it's not just your ex or my ex. It's like we have to take responsibility. There's more to it, you know.
This makes me think of a comment that has stayed with me. I had mentioned in a video before that marriage is work.
Yeah.
And someone said, I've been in a relationship for a long time, and we don't have to work at our marriage because we're a team. And maybe working isn't the right word for that.
Right.
But I do feel like, I mean, making sure you take time for each other. That's, you know, that sometimes is work because you forget.
Yes.
I mean, you're here and you're there and you're stretched so thin that sometimes just communicating is work and dating is work.
And work doesn't have to be a bad thing. Work can be
Right.
something you're passionate about. You're
Right.
passionate
I
about
mean, it's-
working at your
When
marriage
you work
relationship.
hard at something, it's a reward at the end when it's so great. You know, when it's, and
I call
that
it
is
create. I call it creating.
Creating, yeah.
Keep
That's a
creating
good
in
word.
your relationship. Keep, you know, go on a little date, go on a little travel, go do fun stuff together. That's like create every time.
Well, it's like a table. Everybody brings something to the table, and you're not always going to put out 100% on the table. You have to put a small percentage, but I don't know, relationships are tricky.
It's you guys. We have to wrap up. I can't believe it. This is like we could talk for hours and just stay here and talk, but you know, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to go to our Facebook page, The Mom's View. We are doing a weekly giveaway every Wednesday. So this week, I think we have some Toby Tobin candles.
Oh my gosh.
Go comment about this episode. The one with the most thumbs up will be sent those beautiful candles, and follow us on Twitter and subscribe. And we love you guys. And see you next week.
Thank you.